Hello and welcome. We know quite a bit about episode 1 so far, and there's still more to come. Let's just talk about what we do know and what's to come. So, the episodic content is going to be released as free DLC periodically for EDA. Each episode will contain 4 maps, 3 fan favorites returning, and 1 brand new map. We're looking at one of the returning favorites right now. This is the Mill. It is the reboot of Misty Mire Forest. We will be seeing a new enemy added per episode, the first of which we did get a sneak peek at already, and I'm going to be showing some gameplay of that later as well. But CG has been putting out sneak peeks and things on their Twitter. I'm going to leave a lot of links in the description. Everything that I'm talking about, the replay VODs, all that stuff is going to be linked below as well. There's also going to be 2 new heroes per episode, 1 returning hero with some tweaks and a new coat of paint, and 1 brand new hero. So this is the Mill, a reimagining of Misty Mire Forest from DD1. This was revealed on April 9th. Full VOD in the description, the link for that. It's got a very, very different aesthetic here. It's an autumn theme. Everyone kind of guessed based on looking at this map that the Dryad would be the next rebooted hero, and of course they were actually right about that. But it's a cool looking map. The autumn theme is nice, and it's very different from the original map. I do show the original maps by comparison here for each of the maps, so I'm going to do that for each one. Let's take a look at the original Misty Mire Forest here. This is the tactical map. It's a 4 crystal map with a few branching paths here. Just a quick look. We're not sure if this is going to be exactly how everything pans out. Everything's a work in progress so far with this stuff. They're still making changes. I'm sure everything's going to be a little bit different than what we're seeing. Maybe, maybe not. But yeah, this is just a quick look at the original Misty Mire in terms of its aesthetic. It's very different looking, more spooky than the old one, but very different than the new remake. Next up, we've got the reboot of Drakenfrost Resort from DD2 or Hot Springs, depending on when you played DD2. This was revealed on April 16th, and I do have the link to that VOD in the description as well. They called this map the Outpost. And again, a very different theme here, much more autumn themed, but notably this appears later in the autumn season, like the coloring and everything. Everything is getting more and more orange and red, which was a deliberate thing. They're going for stuff looking a little more and more aged and sort of dying. They talk about how off in the distance you could see the mill from up top here, down the hill off to the right side of this view. The Toxic River is a big difference between this map and the DD2 remake and the DD2 version, Drakenfrost Resort, in that if you jump into this Toxic River, you just die instantly, whereas you get whooshed off of a cliff in DD2 and you kind of have an opportunity to jump out of it. But anyway, 2 crystals that we can see from here. Bigger, wider lanes meant to accommodate more larger enemies coming down the lane, but also the fact that the heroes are children in this game, and you know, when you were a kid, you were smaller, everything was bigger to you, relatively speaking. That's kind of the idea with this as well. Our heroes being children, they are smaller relative to the map, so everything is bigger and more grand looking, and the hot springs and stuff are now tree stumps. Speaking of which, this is the DD2 map that it's modeled after, Drakenfrost Resort or Hot Springs, depending on when you played DD2. The hot springs being, these little barrels here and whatnot. This is obviously, it's a similar layout, but it's different in terms of the way it feels, simply because it's so much more compact. In the DD2 version, here's the whooshing of the waterfall I was talking about earlier. Yeah, it's very different, but the winter aesthetic obviously being switched out for an autumn feel in the newer version. I'm excited about this one. Should be a lot of fun to mess around with this map. All right, let's take a look at Foundries and Forges next, revealed on April 23rd, along with the Warden. Big day for reveals on Chromatic Games stream. This is a fan favorite, a very familiar map to anyone who's played a fair amount of DD1. This was in the original campaign of DD1. It's a very simple map. Here's the biggest difference, in my opinion, between this new version and the last one, that giant forge in the middle there. And it's much more open now than it was in DD1 and in DD2. This was also Unholy Catacombs, I believe, in DD2. showing off some Warden gameplay here and defenses, but a very, very simple map. If you're not familiar with this map, think Magus Quarters, 1 crystal, 3 lanes leading to that crystal. They split off and reconverge a little bit later into the map, but it's a very, very simple layout and definitely a fan favorite from DD1. This was revealed originally to be coming back to the game in the trailer back a while ago, back when the game was still in early access. I believe they showed a bit of footage from Foundries and Forges in that trailer. Here we've got an ogre attacking some of the Warden's defenses. I do go over her defenses next, but here's a look at the tactical map from DD1's version of this map, the original version, and a quick look at the difference in aesthetic. It does look a fair amount different, but again, I think the biggest difference is the middle of the map not having these spiky claw-looking things, and it being just so much more open in the middle. I think it's going to allow for a lot of build variation that we didn't see in DD1. Here's a quick look at the DD2 aesthetic for this map, Unholy Catacombs. I think this is my favorite version of the map. I like the undead look and the big skull on the wall there. Also, really cool part of this map that I'm kind of sad to see go is that you can kind of explore underneath the catacombs, so to speak. There's stuff down here. You can walk around down here. You couldn't do this in DD1. Very cool version of the map. A quick look at all of the Warden's defenses. She was also revealed the same day as Foundries and Forges. This is her first defense, Roots of Purity. It's required to be down in order to place any of her other defenses. The ring around the Roots of Purity is the buildable area around it as a way of kind of indicating where you can build and where you can't. So you can see he's got the second defense out, the Wisp Den. If he were to go outside of that green ring, he would not be able to place it. The Wisp Den spawns little wisps within its range. They'll attack anything within the range of the den itself. Little tiny wisps that come out and they'll attack, do physical damage. It appears they'll do physical damage base. You can do multiple, and there's more than one wisp per den. Here's a look at the third defense, and it shoots basically, it's a beam that the flower itself has to charge up. It's the beaming blossom. It has to charge and then it fires, and it hits more than once per charge, 4 or 5 times it looks like, and then it has to recharge. We're not sure on a lot of things in terms of scaling, how rate and power will affect these defenses. Specifically, when the Warden goes into Wrath form, her hero boost, she gives power-ups to all of her defenses. In this case, the Roots of Purity does damage to anything within its range, and the Beaming Blossom has a piercing effect. It'll pierce multiple targets when the Dryad or the Warden is in Wrath form. Here is the fourth defense, the Shroomy, who will spawn out of his little Shroomy hole there and then run into the enemies and explode. When you are in Wrath form for the Shroomies, their explosion will deal a damage over time effect as well to any enemies affected by the Shroomies explosion. It looks like the direct contact explosion does more damage than the AoE attack. It looks like the one dummy is taking about half the damage of the other dummy, and that also translates to the damage over time effect as well. And we've got the fifth defense here, the Slime Launcher. So it's got a rather narrow aim, the cone in front of it, but it is a combination of damage and crowd control. I do like the idea of this defense, and I'm happy to see more crowd control defenses in play for the Warden. So when you've got your hero boost active here and you're in Wrath form for the Warden, this defense will add a stun effect. So if you attack an enemy in crowd control, being crowd controlled by a slime launcher, if you attack that enemy while your Wrath form is up, you will stun that enemy for additional crowd control. All right, the big reveal, the big kahuna right here. This is the new map called The Keep. It is as followed from the mill through the outpost to finally the keep. Everything's kind of dead looking here. The trees are bare. The motif is a lot like the summit. Everything's kind of purple. But yeah, there's one thing you'll notice about this map, and it is that it has a ton of spawn doors, like an intense amount of spawn doors and lots of lanes, but you know, lots of buildable space and choke points as well to take advantage of. to kind of battle that. It's a big map, 140 DU. You can see we've got 500 starting mana here, 3 crystals to defend on this map. So we've got Phil going at it here with some Dryad defenses, some Warden defense. I'm going to say that a lot. Some Warden defenses. And what's interesting and what I really like is that you can build on top of these little rune stones here. That is going to add a lot of build variety in and of itself to this map, allowing a lot of towers that need a vision to deal damage to do so from up top on these little platforms here, on these little rocks. And here's another closer look at the wisps here flying around on the map. But I really like that you can build up top on those areas. It's going to allow for a lot of build diversity, I think. We'll see. Very cool map, very big map here, and we're going to see some more Warden gameplay. Here is the new enemy too, by the way. This is sort of a lycanthrope werewolf type of a deal. He's a big enemy. He's categorized as a nightmare enemy, it was stated, so that he's up in the priority list for being targeted by defenses. He does a sort of AoE buff around him when he howls, and I think it makes him and everything else take less damage and deal more damage. So he and the enemies around him become much more dangerous when he does do his howl and buff all the enemies around him. Here we've got some action from the Warden holding down a lane here, and Phil showing off the ability, which I didn't talk about previously, on the Warden, where if you cast her ability, it drops a seed, and you can, if you're in Wrath mode, it deals damage. And if you're not in Wrath mode, you can pick it up and it'll give you mana. It'll replenish your mana. So here is a little more gameplay of the new enemy buffing some enemies here, along with some Warden defenses. Here's Phil showing off the ability again, and a little bit of her melee damage. She is a melee hero, and the ability to buff herself and her defenses might make her sort of an all-in-one kit for soloing maps. Who knows? She could be the new solo hero meta. We have yet to see. I'm not sure if she's going to kill the DST meta, if I'm being honest. But again, everything here that we're seeing is a work in progress. Some things are bound to change, and maybe they'll be a little different when they do actually release. But yeah, that's going to do it for me here. Hope you enjoyed the breakdown. I'm excited. This map looks like it's going to be a ton of fun, and I'm really looking forward to episode 1 and all of the rest of the episodic content. In my opinion, the future looks very, very bright for Dungeon Defenders Awaken. I'm really excited. But yeah, links to my Discord and Twitch are in the description. That's going to do it for me here. Now, thank you so much for watching.